back to 1721. Yes, 300 years of human history has disappeared, and that's true. Wow, waking up this morning to this incredible but very intriguing report by German scientists that 300 years of human history disappeared overnight and is still missing. So let me explain, and I'm not a calendar nerd or a mathematician. I'm just going to talk about the general concept of what they're saying, because their argument is really intriguing. These German mathematicians have looked at our modern calendar, our calendar which is in lockstep to the Earth's rotation around the sun, and have compared it to the old calendar, the Julian calendar, the calendar of ancient Rome, which wasn't in lockstep. So what they found is when the new calendar was introduced, it jumped 300 years. Instead of being the 9th century, it was suddenly the 13th century. So your calendar of goats in trees no longer worked. On Tuesday, it was the 9th century, and on Wednesday, and it probably wasn't Wednesday anymore, it was the 13th century. Well, it doesn't really matter. It's a bit like being outraged when clocks leap forward. People think the government stole an hour of my life. Well, of course they didn't. It's just a new way of looking at time. And their evidence for the mathematics, the new arithmetic that the new calendar designers used, is compelling. Right now, we are pretty well, roughly in human terms, in lockstep to our planet's transition around the sun. Okay, we have leap years, and every few years we have to add a couple of seconds to their clocks, because there aren't really 365 days in a solar year. But it's the nearest big number. The fraction you can pretty well ignore or account for by leap years. But now it gets really intriguing. Why did they not work it out to be the Julian calendar on the Tuesday and the new one that took over seamlessly on Wednesday of the same year, but figured out where the Earth is around the sun? Well, for some reason, they didn't do that. The most reasonable explanation is they just got their figures wrong, and it was easier to jump from the 9th century to the 13th century overnight. So that's the end of the story. Oh no, it's not! The next bit blows my mind. These researchers have actually come up with 3 bits of independent, really intriguing evidence that in fact 300 years of human history disappeared overnight, and they're really missing. So I can hear you all out there in YouTube land saying one word, and that word is bollocks. And you would be right. It's absolutely bollocks. But let me tell you, these German investigators, 3 bits of evidence, and they're very interesting. This is a 9th century building. Quite prosaic. You can work out its development over the previous years as stonemasons and architects slowly learnt their craft, and they built these very blocky but interesting old buildings. And this is an example of one of the great cathedrals of Europe. Giant spaces, arches, flying buttresses, 300 years of development, the secrets of the stonemasons, the amazing new techniques that they came up with of tension and compression of stone. But hang on, in Germany is Europe's oldest cathedral, dating from the 9th century. And it looks like this. It uses arches, domes, it has all the technology of the 13th century, but built in the 9th. How did they do it? It's very intriguing. And who remembers in school the history teacher talking about the Dark Ages. Oh yes, there's a period in history that is absolutely missing, and it's exactly the time that the calendar didn't exist. There appears to be 300 years where humans didn't march forward, didn't have any wars, kings were unknown, we don't know how they lived, they're just missing. So was it because of a temporal glitch? And there's actually 300 years of time gone? Obviously not. But hang on. The way to check that is to look at other cultures, because they also had their own calendars, so they would have a record of the missing 300 years. Oh boy. Do I have any Jewish historians in my audience? I sincerely hope so, because in Jewish history, there's a mention of 300, this is intriguing, exactly 300 years missing. Their calendar also jumps. So what does it all mean? Well, it actually does mean that we're really in 1721. And we're actually just calling this 2021. And that's a fact. Whether there's really 300 years of temporal time missing, I very much doubt it. But it's really intriguing, and that's just the kind of stories that I like to do on my channel, because the truth is out there.